Hello, and welcome to the Frictionless Experience, the podcast where we lay waste to digital friction. I'm Chuck Moxley.
And I'm Nick Palladino.
On today's episode, we're kicking off a new series we're calling the CXO Suite. Only we're not talking to executive leaders of companies, but the people who are responsible for driving great digital experiences and how they get executive buy-in to deliver better digital experiences. So instead of chief digital officer, for example, we'll be talking to the continuous digital optimization executive. Joining us is an expert on this topic, Vijay Jayaraman. Vijay is the Senior Director of Product for eCommerce at Walmart, and before that, he served in product leadership roles at the Home Depot and Capital One. He'll be representing digital so that we can understand continuous digital optimization from his perspective. Vijay, welcome to the Frictionless Experience.
Glad to be here.
So when you think about removing friction from customer experiences, what are some of the challenges specifically that you all are trying to overcome in the customer experience?
Yeah, good question. So at Walmart, we focus on helping customers save time and money so they can live better. So I'll give you a good example of it. We just got past Valentine's Day, and we were able to deliver flowers to people's houses up until 8:30 p.m. that evening. Not something that I would recommend for everyone, but for those who are like missing it out, here's an option for them to save their day.
Oh, that's a good save too.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm guessing the normal, florists probably don't go that late, right? Especially ordering and then being able to deliver.
That is right.
If you've ever gone through the big competitor of that, then you'll know getting a same day delivery is non-existent.
That's correct.
That's huge.
Yeah, so a big part of our value prop really is like our 4,500 stores across the entire nation. So with which we are able to like deliver stuff on the same day, and that's removing friction for Walmart. So frictionless experience doesn't always have to be just within the computer or within your app. It also extends outside of that, all the way from like customers wanting an item to delivering their item into their hands. And sometimes if they don't like it, then even having a return experience that is fantastic, right? So we think about like technology and building stuff across all of these angles. For example, we are like investing a whole lot into drone deliveries. Now think about like getting stuff into to your house in under 20 minutes. That's technology that we are like, leveraging. You order something, think of this is a great frictionless experience that I could talk to you about. Think of a scenario where you are sitting in a park with your kids playing frisbee, and all of a sudden you go out of chips, and you want some chips and some couple of cans of soda and maybe a beer, right? You can just order them on your app, and then in under 20 minutes, a drone flies over and then drops it off on your picnic pad, and then your picnic continues. You don't have to get off, find where more chips is for your sandwich. None of those things. It's all right there.
That'd be really cool. So you've just defined friction as being able to elevate your own life, which I think that's even cooler because you gave us two great examples. One is I'm out of chips. That's my friction, is that I'm out of chips. So how do I get a frictionless life? That's Walmart coming in and giving drone delivery. But also I'm a forgetful husband and I don't know that it's February 14th. And I'm like, oh no, but I'm also very busy. So I'm constantly working. That is defining friction in a revolutionary way, because this is the friction of the life and how you come through and solve that. And it's more about how you create those digital experiences that allow you to alleviate that. That's really cool. This is the first time we've been talking about that.
Yeah, Nick, I'll give you one more item on this. Like, we are all continuously distracted with so many different things that are going on in our life. Our lives are getting busier and busier, more things that we are like trying to do at the same time, right? It was not this way in our grandma's days where life was a little bit more smoother, easier, it was like going on. So when the person wants to buy flowers, to get it delivered at their house around like 7 p.m., 8:30 p.m., whatever it might be, saying like, that's when I'm going to be home, let me get that. The online experience needs to be frictionless as well, because you have like 2 minutes or under for you to like figure out what those flowers are, buy those flowers, schedule it for 8:30 and get it out of it. So the online experience needs to be as efficient as you possibly can. Telling Nick like, hey Nick, I know like these are the kind of flowers that you bought like for last Valentine's Day. Maybe you want to do something similar. You want to do the same thing. How about that? Like, let me get you a card along with it. The entire experience needs to be like packaged in sort of like a concierge service for you so that you can come by and say, like, you know what? I trust Walmart at this point. I have done so many orders. Let me just go buy that thing. It can be Walmart, any retailer for that matter. That's if you remember at the top of the meeting, I was saying like digital identity is a huge deal and something that we are like working on. All of these things, experiences are what we are like trying to work out of the digital identity experience.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I really like hearing all this. Like this is taking that frictionless up just to a new level. That's about the person. Like that's just my life. Like I want my life to be frictionless, and I want Walmart to help me get there.
Well, I think you've also brought in an interesting point that we've not thought about or talked about before on the podcast, and that is it's from the consumer's perspective, what becomes frictionless, and time being a factor, or the day of the week, or the day of in the holiday. And I actually had an example of this with Walmart because I'm a Walmart Plus customer. I also happen to be a free shipping customer with another large retailer. And I do the Christmas light thing, like what's the movie, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation? I do all the Christmas lights. I had a controller go out, a extension cord go out, and and it was like 4:00, and I did not want to have to. It was a holiday, like in a holiday weekend. I did not want to have to go to the store and find something, so I went online, and I could not get it in time with the other retailer, but with Walmart, I could get it that night before the lights had to go on and get the unit delivered. So I was able to place the order in the app on my phone, check them both very quickly, make that decision in a split second because I knew I had to have it before, lights out. So it was a prime example.
Yeah. Somebody told me about this, some wise man told me about this a while ago, and that stuck with me. The exact experience that you just went through, Chuck, which is like you check the other big retailer, you check another big retailer to see, like, hey, what's the product? Am I getting the right product? Is it a great price? Is it convenient enough for me to like get that item to my house? And those are the differentiating factors, right? And regardless, you have to like compare like two different retailers before you made that purchase, right? So the last best experience the customer had is the new expectations that the customers are having. So the next time you want to like go get yourself an extension cord, think where you will be going next. You'll be like, hey, am I not going to get it at like, if I order at 4 p.m., am I not getting it by like 6 p.m.?
Yeah.
That's not going to be worth it.
If I was hitting that same thing, I would say to myself, I got to take the personal responsibility and drive over to a store right now, because there's no way I'm going to be able to get this back in time in a digital experience, because I've never been given the expectation that that's possible. Except for when I order takeout, no one's delivering something in the next hour, 2 hours. Now all of a sudden I can. But if I went through the same thing you did, Chuck, and just to what Vijay's saying, and then I said to myself, I'm going to try this and give it a shot. If they deliver on that expectation, that is brand building to the nth level, because now all of a sudden I have this new thing available to me that has just changed the way I think about things. I'm no longer jumping in the truck and driving over to Walmart to buy it. I'm now getting it delivered to me, and I'm able to achieve more. It saved time. Just right there.
Well, and I'm just a little lazier than you, Nick. I like it delivered to me, and I've become so accustomed to it that now I do that all the time. Unfortunately, I've set a new expectation for the retailers I shop with. So how does customer attention factor into digital experiences? Like, how do you keep a customer engaged and not allow distraction to derail a purchase transaction in this TikTok, Instagram age?
Yeah, a lot of those things are, it's hard to like keep attention of anyone. Like, talk to someone who is across a table with you, and I guarantee you after like 30 seconds they're like, opening their phone and seeing like, how many notifications they got, right? And yes, like, hey, do I have you still? And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I just got like a text message that I have like, look, and how many times has this conversation happened for you this last week, right? This weekend. It's like
I have a
every
22-year-old. Yes.
that, right? It is difficult to like keep attention of people when they are there. Like it's everything is about entertainment right now, right? So make it as entertaining as you possibly can. Make it as like pertinent as you possibly can. Then you will have customers with you for the time that they're going to give to you. Because what everyone social media is competing for, retailers are competing for, all the online folks are competing for, they are competing for attention at this point. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Walmart, Amazon, everybody. So like it's more about like giving the right kind of content to the customer when they like pay attention to you. It's more about like helping them solve a real problem that they have in their life. The more you do that, and then you get out of the way with all the other complexities that you have to deal with in terms of like, do you want it like this way, that way, and all the retail complexities, like remove that out of customers. Say like, Chuck wants an extension cord, get him the extension cord. Chuck wants a really good product, get him the really good product. He wants it at a great price, get it to him at a great price. So staying like true to our fundamentals of retail, that helps. Staying true to the needs of our customers, that helps. Just we focus more on like solving customers' problems. That works over a period of time than any other gimmicks that you could put. And those gimmicks will work maybe for like 30 days, 15 days, and then people will get used to that gimmick, whatever it might be. And then you have to find another gimmick, and you have to like keep chasing one after the other. And that's not helpful. That's what all these trends are all about, right? Like people do these trends on TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that. A trend will stay there for like 2 weeks, right? And then the trend is gone, and then people find another trend to create videos on. You don't want to be on that that ecosystem, because you'll continuously be chasing something. Rather, you want to like be on the side of like figuring out what customers really want to do and solving their problem. As long as you're doing that, you're good.
That reminds me of an episode we recorded with Jason Abdo, where he talks about how a digital experience, especially in e-commerce, is pretty much like a hamburger. Like you have the expectation of the bun. You might have some cheese on there, but it's the bun, it's the meat, and it's a tomato, maybe a little bit of ketchup. But for the most part, it's always the same. You have your cart, you have your checkout, you have your browsing experience, and that's always consistent from one to the next. So if you fall into this gimmick game, just like you're talking about, then you're going to just distract and get away from it. Maybe you might try some peanut butter on your burger. That might be delicious. I don't know. But for the most part, the burger's the same.
I've never had that. Never even seen it. My gosh.
Oh man, that takes me back to college. There's this place called Mug Shots in college at Tuscaloosa that had peanut butter burger, and everybody called me crazy for ordering it, but it was pretty good. It's pretty good.
Not sure I'll try it, but I'll take it.
So it's interesting because another thing that you talked about that your team is responsible for is the successful conclusion. And we talked about the physical delivery, but there's the little elements like the confirmation email and the confirmation page and all of that. Talk about maybe where friction can enter that process.
Tell me more if you can. Like, what do you mean by?
Yeah. Like, so you get somebody who can figure out what they want to buy. They get it into their cart. They're now at that checkout experience, and they've got to complete the checkout experience. They got to, and what's going to show up on that final page that gives them confidence that the order took. And then you get the confirmation email, and then the communication that goes on before they actually get their product. What are some of the areas that you all are thinking about from a friction standpoint there?
I think see, anything that we think outside of this is friction. And I'll tell you what this is. You figure out what products that you want. You figured out when you want it, how you want it, or you're like figuring it out still maybe, right? The only thing that you want to do at that point is just like, hey man, I just spent like 30 minutes of time on the website trying to figure what it is. 30 minutes on time on the website is like 2 days or 3 days, right? Spread across like 2 or 3 days. Remember all the distractions that we are talking about, right? So I'm here. Just take care of me. I just want to like give my money, take my money at this point, right? So that's one. People have the money with them. Let's just like figure out how to like get it over to them, right? Be as crisp and clear as possible. Be as like, upfront as possible on whatever the fees are, what the total is going to be. As long as you provide that clarity, we are good there. There's going to be another cohort of customers where they would say like, you know what, man, I really want this like big 86-inch LED TV for like, $1,500. I'm making things up, right? They come to check out and I'm like, you know what, I'm short on cash on this by like a couple of $100. Okay. Now we have someone who wants it, who is good for the money, but are not able to pay for it immediately. Are you able to like solve for that particular problem? Either be it through like a credit card offering, be it through like a buy now, pay later solution, whatever it is, like, allow them to pay in the way that they choose and make that process as simple and easy as possible. Once I click on that confirm button, all that they want is like getting an email, getting a notification, getting a big stuff saying like order placed, you'll have it in this day, because that time that they're going to spend after doing that lot of like 30 minutes worth of work is like, I'm done doing a task. I just want to like check mark it and keep going. They don't want to like keep lingering on it. So making it as clear and possible to say like, your order has been placed, you'll be getting it on this date. Deliver that message, and then you can do everything else on top of it. That's all gravy. To Nick's point, it's all peanut butter on burgers after that.
So, Vijay, what goals or KPIs do you use to measure your work? Like, is it conversion rates, revenue, purchase frequency, customer satisfaction? What are the KPIs that you guys?
Yeah, kind of all of it, and but if you were to like focus on some, then the way we know like things are working is when customers are buying from you. That's a true testament to your product working. The way you know it is working is customers buying repeatedly, right? So you want to know like, okay, you bought it once, but it is not a one and done deal, which could happen with many other like new and upcoming retailers who have like items for like a very cheap price, and you wait for a long time and then you get something, so you need to develop the trust. So those are like two things. And if you were to like put that customer lens into this picture, then all the other metrics will come into play, right? Like conversion rate. Every time customers come in, okay, what's the conversion rate looking like? Okay, are we able to like be as frictionless as possible? Are we able to like get them what they want and get them out of this place as soon as they possibly can, right? So that's one. Are we having the same customer keeping coming back to us? Like, do we have the organic traffic who is coming back to our website? Is that a repeat traffic that we have? Do we have like a well-developed traffic, such as yourself, Chuck? You are a Walmart Plus member. So, that helps. So you're, one of our top tier members in saying, so we know that you're coming back over and over again, and you're going to buy stuff. So those are some of the things that we are looking. The conversion rate is good. Everything is sort of like driven by GMV or like your merchandise value that you're like are able to convert it into. But a lot goes into GMV. There's price of the product that goes in there. There's inflation that goes into it, and all of those things. The one that you can keep your eyes closer to would be like, are people buying enough orders and all those, are you having like some sort of like a repeat customers to you? Then the price aspect will just play out, because the companies that, I have worked for so far has worked under the principle of EDLP, everyday low price, which means like you don't need to like, continuously like try to figure out like, is it this day and can I get like a better price on this particular day for this particular item, on a basket level, like, you continue to purchase with us, like you'll be winning on the price aspect. So that's sort of is our prime, differentiator, and everything else will follow very soon.
Gotcha. And just to clarify, GMV means
Gross merchandise value.
okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
No.
So,
Yeah.
so on the flip side, how are you measuring or quantifying friction in the customer journey, the negative stuff?
So see, I think what one minus conversion rate is your friction. So it's kind of sort of like, so think of it that way, your abandonment rate, right? So, so that's what it is, right? Like, customers show an interest to something and then that is not fully happening. Um, Great examples are like, you're adding an address. Halfway through adding an address, you drop off, which means like, we have not made that like adding an address part easy enough, right? It has to be like this day, it has to be very easy enough to say like current location. And it just picks up like what your house address is like directly, right? We have to like figure out what that is continuously, then there is a problem there. Same with like adding in errors. Errors are a great example of it. Like the more the number of errors that we have, it's a bad deal for customers. I'm talking very tactically right now into products on like, what will go wrong, right? Or what is considered as frictions. We don't want errors at all. And when it happens, errors are like not going to not happen at all. When it happens, are we able to like gracefully handle them? That's another big
Yeah.
part.
Failing gracefully is one of my favorite things to just generally think about, because if I know that in the digital space, things are going to fail. I know that things are going to fail. It's about making sure that when they fail, it fails gracefully so the customers can at least continue their goal, whatever it may be. Now, some things are going to have a higher dependency to create a major failure than others, and it can't fail quite as gracefully, such as your address lookup. If that doesn't work, then that just doesn't work. But how do I make sure that when it doesn't work, that my customer realizes that either it didn't work and they need to manually enter it, or it just organically pushes them into that general mentality somehow. So creating that graceful failing. And another thing that I really take back from my engineering days is destructive testing. Intentionally break it, sever it at its core. You can even do it in production if you're feeling risky, but that will let you know what actually happens when that occurs, so you can see where your KPIs drop off as a result of that actual failure. Love talking about this stuff. I mean, this really goes back to the topic of this podcast, which is really to say, hey, how do we elevate this digital mentality up to our C-suite so that we understand how to create that priority? Because being able to create these frictionless experiences for our customers means failing gracefully.
That's correct.
Right.
That's
I love
correct. It. Yeah. Very important for the executives, because like things could work fine on a normal day when everything is, even, right? And everything flows easily, and that's okay. And there comes like a big day that comes up, right? Be it like Black Friday, Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, Super Bowl Sunday, whatever it might be. On that day, your product needs to be like working really, really well, because that's when all the traffic is. People are depending on you to like solve a problem that they have, solve a need that they have. So, be there when people really need them, and for that, you gotta like do all these kind of destructive testing, to your point, Nick, and see like at what point does it fail? Do I have the system scaled up in such a way that, it is going to like, hold up to the test of all this traffic coming in and wanting the same items? How are you going to manage it? All of those things comes into play.
So how do you elevate that conversation to leadership? What are the ways that you tie your team's efforts to business outcomes in a way that gets the support that you need from Walmart's leadership?
See, as long as you like, for us, like, like I have like, talked about it a few times in this podcast, like we focus a lot on customers, serving customers and being able to be in that servant leadership role is huge within this company and in other companies that we are part of, right? As long as you're able to tie it back to customers, how many customers it could impact, and tell that story to say like, hey, we have a problem over here, and move all the technical jargons out of it, rather like make it as personable as possible and say like, hey, if you were to like have this problem and come like Black Friday, this were to happen, then this is going to impact like these many number of millions of customers and in under an hour. We had to like
And
fix this problem
and
very soon.
yeah, and on that, if you make a flaw for an hour on Black Friday, people really treat it like a limited number of dollars, that you're not competing in the same vertical anymore. You're just competing for a total number of dollars anybody's willing to spend on Black Friday, because they might end up saying, hey, you know what? I don't even want to shop at Walmart anymore. I want to go shop somewhere else because I'm also looking for this other thing, whatever it may be. Might not even be an item you're even trying to compete with at all, right? You might be a subscription to uh, YouTube. I don't know. Like I'm making it up on the spot as much as I can, but you kind of get the point of where I'm going. You're not really competing on a big day like that for your vertical. You're competing for just dollars.
That's right. You're competing for customers and customers' attention to your brand and the trust that you want to continue to. If people can't trust your website and or your digital experience, like, hey, every time I go there, it's an easy experience. I can buy it. It comes to my house. Doesn't fail. Then they keep going there.
Yeah, it's that consistently frictionless experience that builds that customer loyalty and trust. No, I love the concept that you talked about failing gracefully, because and then Nick, you talked about the competing for the dollars. I'm notorious about a deal that ends at midnight Eastern or midnight Central, and I look up and it's 15 minutes that I've got to get that deal, and that happened to be Friday night, and I placed the order. I got my confirmation screen. I did not get a confirmation email, and then I checked my credit card, and there was no charge to it. And then I'm going, crap, now I've got 5 minutes. I've really got, so I went back and placed the order again to make sure I got the deal. Then I got two confirmations like 10 or 15 minutes later, but they were smart. And the retailer actually then sent me a notice saying, hey, we saw two transactions that looked alike. So we're going to cancel the second one unless you tell us you actually want it, because they were identical orders. I thought that was a smart, graceful fail, because otherwise I would have had to now call them and go, hey, I didn't get the confirmation. I placed the order by mistake, etc.
That's interesting way to elevate it too, because the failing there is you didn't get it fast enough. It's not so much that the transaction actually failed; it's that you were under the interpretation that it did fail, even though it didn't. That's a really interesting one, Chuck.
Well, and I will say, Walmart does one thing you do well is you can add your mobile number. And then you immediately text me as soon as I place the order. And then you text me as I'm getting up, it's out for delivery, et cetera. So text works in a situation like that, because I'm very impatient. I think most consumers are.
Meet consumers where they are, right? Email is slowly becoming a thing of the past, and text messages are easier. You can be less formal about it, less words, and it just allows for that. Email just doesn't allow for it to say like, you can't write an email just saying like, your order will be delivered at 9 p.m. Done. That will look like an income. What? Same thing. You can do it in text message, and it is a complete text message. You don't feel offended, and that's where consumers are. So be where consumers are.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, good statement. And you don't have to worry about spam going into spam folder stuff, because that's what I was checking the spam folder, making sure it hadn't come, and I missed it. So Vijay, what do people get wrong about creating frictionless digital experience? What's a widely held belief about the customer experience that you fundamentally disagree with?
Yeah, that's a very good question that you asked. Sometimes people think that removing a step or making a button brighter or any of those things are friction, and that is the frictionless experience. While it is mostly it works, you don't want to like add a step just for the sake of adding a step, right? You don't want to overlook those kind of like minor imperfections, right? Like, do those things, but you need to like really think about like knowing your customer and solving for their needs. And if you start even like adding more steps on their way to like purchasing something that they want, then over a period of time, then you will end up like creating value for the customer that they'll be happy to say like, you know what, in this case, you had a great example. Phone number, there is a possibility that I don't need to ask your phone number, right? And you can just go to your email address. But I did, and when I did, you gave it to me and it made your life simpler. So one could argue that removing a phone number would make it a little bit of a frictionless experience. So that's the common thing that I keep. I will try to remove this number. I will try to remove this field, this step, or make this button, pop brighter. Like I said earlier, it is a little bit of gimmicks. The gimmicks will only go so long and then it dies out. That's the biggest learning that I have had in figuring out how to build frictionless experiences, right? You need to really like focus on solving customer problems. Sometimes it could even mean getting to know more about our customers. For example, Nick and I did this at Home Depot. Like we removed this concept of like guest checkout at Home Depot when we were working over there, because we said like, we want to learn, we want to know who the customers are who are shopping with us. Like we want to form a relationship with them so we can help build their projects better, right? That's friction in many people's way of thinking. But over a period of time, then you create a cohort of customers whom you know deeply well, who knows like, okay, so you're into these kind of like tools. DeWalt tool is what you have with you. And if you're looking for another drill, then let me show you a DeWalt drill versus something else, which might not fit your current tools needs. The battery packs won't like fit. All of those things will go along with it. So that's where like frictionless experience is. But people always think like, let me try to remove a step, and works, but you need to like balance that between that and like solving for customers' needs.
Yeah, so the guest checkout's an interesting one because the last episode that we recorded actually was one of the statements that was made in it, and this hasn't released. And by the time this episode right now is released, then it should have released. But it's so complex when we're doing this release cycle. But what's so interesting is he said, if you don't have guest checkout, you're getting it wrong. And I said, that's interesting, coming from exactly our experience of intentionally making it so that you have to sign in. Because what it really, my big takeaway in that moment was, hey, you need to make sure that you're meeting your customers where they are. Because in Home Depot's world, meeting your customers where they are is that long-term project. So I need to go after short-term friction intentionally to be able to get a long-term loyalty. However, in this other case, it was more about apparel. You have to meet customers where they are. I don't care that I have bought jeans in the past. I need to buy jeans now because I only buy jeans once every 6 months if I'm a super quick jean purchase. I haven't bought jeans in 9 years, but that's the kind of difference, meeting the customers where you are. So it's really cool that in back-to-back recordings, we talk about the exact same thing in the exact opposite way and define both of them as frictionless.
That's right. That's right. It all depends on like where the company is and its maturity curve that it is in with its customers, right? The apparel company that you're referring to might be in a spot where they're saying like, you know what, at this point, they figured out what jeans it is, right? Let me just like figure out how to sell it to them so they are like done with that transaction. If they want to get to know more, they want to form a relationship with us, let them form, right? But at this point, let me at least like start that relationship, right? Right now, I don't even have one. So let's figure out like by selling something to them. That's step one. There are companies which are at a higher or a different phase, not a higher, but a different phase of this journey, maturity curve, so to speak, like where they say like, I'm going to you regardless. If I want something, that's my place of choice. And people are like very, very loyal about like going to Home Depot or Lowe's when it comes to these, right? And like they're going there. So at this point, like, hey, you're coming here. I know you're coming here often. Let me form a deeper relationship with you so I can serve you better. It has to be with the intention of serving customers better, right? So that's the core. If you like move away from that, and then everything else doesn't like make sense.
Yeah. A term that kind of came to mind as you guys were talking was purposeful friction, that there are times you want to add in because it makes for a better end experience. And I was reminded of Kenny from Wyndham, where we're talking about you could make it faster by downsizing the images. But in the case of picking a hotel, it's really important that the image quality is good, for example. Yeah. Interesting. We could do a whole episode just on that, Nick.
Yeah, maybe we need to. Purposeful friction. That's a good one.
I actually like that term, purposeful friction. I like it.
All right, I'll file the trademark on that one when we're done here. So, how do you, besides listening to the Frictionless Experience podcast, how do you keep up with the industry?
A lot of work, like for example, I'm meeting with all the executives very soon, sometime in March. So meeting with leaders across the industry, be it like fashion, jewelries, apparels, high-end markets. So meeting with all of them and then getting their perspective on things is always very helpful because you can, double click into few things and then see like, okay, why are they doing something that they are doing? And obviously at a surface level, you'll be like, doing competitor research all the time to figure out like what our competitors are doing or like what other retailers are doing. It gives you a certain amount of information to you, but the double click happens in the one-on-one conversations in podcasts like this. For example, the decision the apparel company took might be the right decision for them, and they might be calling it as a frictionless. So it is less about to say like, hey, that feature that you have over there, that works regardless of all time. It is about like getting to know the story behind it, getting to know the different perspectives behind it, and getting to know what scenario that they took a specific choice in. That helps you sort of like build a frictionless experience as a professional for myself in different places, because the next place that I, be at might not be, removing guest checkout is not probably the right thing for them. And I need to have the context in helping companies decide between saying like, hey, is this a right fit for you or is this not a right fit for you? Then being a dinosaur and saying like, you know what, I did this like 10 years ago and that worked and now you got to do it too. That doesn't work. It's more about building that wisdom.
Awesome. So, Vijay, what are 2 or 3 key takeaways that someone listening to this can take back to their roles to create frictionless experiences?
Ooh, I need a minute to think about 2 or 3. 2 or 3. What did you ask, Chuck?
Yeah, 2 or 3 key takeaways, sort of guiding principles that you would suggest somebody take so they can walk away from this episode and immediately put it into action back at their
Yeah, yeah, good question. So I think one is easy. If you were to say like just like, hey, give me like one thing that they should do, then that's easy, right? Like the first, second, and third that I would probably tell you for now is like, put customers in front of you, put customers in front of you, put customers in front of you, right? Solve for their problems as easy as they possibly can. They're not coming by to any retailer to just hang out and, not do anything. So they are coming there to like solve a particular problem. So help them solve the problem, whatever it might be. It could be inspiration. It could be like buying the specific type of like milk that I want and get that milk. So solving a particular problem and staying close to customers is what I would be, focusing on all the time.
Great. Well, thanks for a great conversation, Vijay. Where can listeners find you or connect with you?
Oh, LinkedIn is probably the best way for people to reach out to me.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Frictionless Experience podcast. Remember to follow us on your favorite podcast player app so you can automatically receive notifications when we update new episodes. And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Let us know what you think and what topics you'd like us to cover. We're happy to cover any topic that's causing you friction. And of course, you can always find and connect with me and Nick on LinkedIn.